So, the Green Party is facing legal action from a former senior member suspended for mocking so-called fairy pronouns. Emma Bateman claims she was discriminated against over her gender-critical views after disciplinary action she claims breached the Equality Act. The Greens say her comments broke the party diversity rules and made trans members feel unwelcome. Mr. Plansky, the Green Party leader, said, or he's previously said, transphobia in the party would be a red line. Well, I'm joined now by women's rights activist and former co-chair of Green Party Women, Emma Bateman. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
Let's get it straight out of the way. You're not transphobic.
No, I don't think I am. I think that it's perfectly reasonable to have a conversation about men and women and use that language. Males and females are two different sexes. You can't change sex. We're not clownfish, and it's not rude to say so, and it's not transphobic to say so.
No, of course, but this is the problem, isn't it? That people want to frame this as transphobia if you don't fully. Or in any way, actually, there are people who just will sort of say, no, I'll respect people's pronouns, but I still think there are only two sexes. But there's no level of purity. There
isn't, and especially in the Green Party, and it's been so weaponised because if you can't talk about issues in a political party, where are you going to be able to talk about them? Because, you know, politics is all about dialogue and different ideas, and all I wanted to do in the Green Party was to stand up for women's rights and to talk about the fact that women need single-sex spaces, sports and services, and we couldn't do that. And the ridiculous thing about the pronouns is just, it's a way of shutting down everything. It's a way of shutting down conversation. It's a way of making people feel awful, feel like they can't express themselves, and you must be able to do that in politics. Otherwise, our democracy is screwed.
Well, look,
I think.
Let's look at what Zach Plansky says on this issue.
More specifically, red lines for me are homophobia, transphobia, racism, misogyny. We don't go near those. So those are red lines, and I think once you're really clear what your red lines are...
Would you kick out a member if they did display transphobia?
Yes, transphobia is absolutely unacceptable. It's unacceptable in society. I'm not in charge of society, sadly, but I do lead the Green Party, and transphobia is totally unacceptable in the Green Party. And I don't think that's nuanced. I don't think it's complicated. I think that just needs to be stated really clearly.
Well, look, I don't think it's nuanced, and I don't think it's complicated, because accusing someone standing up for women's rights doesn't make them transphobic.
No,
he's against misogyny, yet some people would argue that gender ideology is a misogynistic movement.
I think it is misogynistic, and I think the problem is when you talk about misgendering, if you say that, like for instance, if I say you're a male, that's, you know, and you want to be called a female, that's classed as misgendering. Well, that's not misgendering. I'm correctly sexing you, and we must be able to have that conversation. And otherwise, you know, where do we go with it? And the linking of transphobia with homophobia, with all sorts of other bigotry, and usually right wing as well, is really a way to shut down conversation, because it's smearing people. And I would like Zach Plansky to spell out what he means by misgendering. If he means by misgendering that I can't say that males and females are two sexes, well, that's not misgendering, is it? I must be able to say that, you know, you're a man, you're a male, regardless of whether you want to put a dress on and lipstick or whatever.
No, exactly. And let's not talk about, we bumped into each other earlier. But I guess the thing that people have picked up on, certainly in like newspapers, is this whole sort of fairy example. So they did talk to you, because of course people will kind of go, well, what's the harm in it? But when there are things like fair, and these ridiculous pronouns, when it goes down that level, if you don't go along with that, you're supposedly a bigot.
Yeah. And actually, that was quite funny, because I try and avoid pronouns most of the time, but with that particular chap, I used his pronouns all the time because I think it's funny. You know, if you want to be called fair, that's ridiculous. That really is. And I just thought it was quite funny, so I didn't actually misgender that chap there.
So you're actually, they kicked you out for being too gendery?
Yeah, well, they kicked me out for being a bit sarcastic, because you're not allowed to be sarcastic in the party. There was loads of stuff. You know, the problem with the Greens, I'm a Green at heart. I really the philosophical basis of the Green Party I agree with, right? Which is basically, we've got one planet, finite resources, we have to work a way of how to keep that planet and those resources, how to share them out, how to make sure we don't screw it up for the future generations. That to me is green philosophy, right? But you can't kind of like, sorry, I was going down with that.
But I guess I think, well, if I'm sort of, because we talked about this earlier, you were sort of saying how, but that requires belief in science.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I got a bit nervous, so I lost track there. Yeah, so I believe in science. I believe that you have to be able to back up what you're saying. And I think that the Green Party was finally getting a bit of credibility on science, on climate change. I know some people may have different ideas about that, but I believe in that science, and I think you have to have facts to back up what you say. And this ridiculous kind of idea that you just have men can be women and you can be called whatever you want to, that's not rational. It's not scientific. It's not possible to kind of have everyone being treated and being called exactly what they want to say. You have material reality out there, and that you've got to live within that.
I think you could argue that actually it does, those things don't necessarily have to have anything to do with science in terms of how people are expressed. But I think when they tried to use false science to enforce it, that's where the issues come from, i.e. like there's more than two sexes.
Yeah.
Interestingly, with this journey that you've been on, and you were talking there about sort of climate change science, do you think now that you would be more open to hearing different perspectives when it comes to the science on that end of things? So do you think like having your eyes opened on one thing can kind of lead you down?
I think what it is I have always been a person that I try and look at if I think something is true, I will go and look at what the opposition is saying, because I think that's the most important thing to do. If Angela Merkel is a politician I quite respect, and when she was talking once, she said, if somebody comes at me with an idea, what I do is go and ask the opposition what they think, because they will give me what the problems are with it. So with the climate science, I'm a bit like Gad Saad's honey badger, Gad Saad, and he said, if you're gonna have something, go and research it, be sure about it, right? I'm like that with the climate science. So yes, I will look at what the opposition is saying, and I did exactly that with the gender stuff, because like a lot of people, when I started getting called transphobic by teenagers and young people and whatever, my first thought was, oh well, maybe I am transphobic, I'll go and have a look. And then you go and you research it and you go, is there anything behind this? And I decided that not really, there really wasn't. I wasn't missing anything. So I think it is really important to go and understand what the opposition arguments are. So yeah, I will definitely do that.
Well, absolutely. So, because Zach Polanski in that clip that we just saw seems to be like, this is the line, which kind of mirrors what we saw with Stonewall #debate, and that's kind of where the problem is. So you've had these issues over years with the Green Party, and what's made you now take them to court? What was the final straw?
I think that in politics, if you cannot discuss ideas, if you are using bent systems, like the disciplinary system is used and weaponised in the Green Party. That is what has been weaponised to get rid of people, to shut people up. If you're going to do that, you can't have democratic politics. And like I say, I believe in the Greens. There's loads of good people in the Greens. I think some of their politics is quite nuts, and some of it's really quite sound. If you've got a political party that internally is using undemocratic methods to shut people down, then you don't want them in power. If you're going to stand up there and say, we're a democratic party, we're going to treat people fairly, and then you have little factions inside that party.
Isn't that politics? If you look at what's happening with Labour today, Andy Berman's not being allowed to stand, you could argue that that's also kind of shenanigans behind the scenes to fit their ideology.
Yeah, and I guess, I'm not an idealist. I don't expect everyone to be kind of singing Kumbaya and be flower power and happy with each other. But you have to be able to have internal systems in your political parties that are robust, that can be challenged. And if what you have instead is people undermining those systems by, for instance, using complaints to silence people, that is no good. That will lead us to a very bad place, you know, I think, personally.
No,
So-
well, we'll see what happens at your tribunal, I guess.
yeah, and you know, the other thing I want to say is I would like the government to pull their finger out and do the job. Bridget Phillipson should put out the guidelines for the EHRC, because I think it's wrong that people like me have to go to court to kind of get these things out in the open, to make these changes, when actually it should be the politicians that are elected to do their jobs, to do this thing instead.
The Supreme Court has already come up with their ruling. Women means biological women. So I'm sure that's going to support you in your case. GB News has approached the Green Party for a comment and opportunity to respond to Emma Bateman's claims, but has not provided a response. In the meantime, a big round of applause for Emma.
Thank you.